Hey, welcome to Integrated, a podcast for entrepreneurial couples who want to build a high-impact career and an exceptional partnership. I'm Jayson Gaddis, one of the hosts here, and I'm CEO and founder of the Relationship School. I train coaches. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm a coach. I'm an entrepreneur.
And I'm Ellen Bader, a psychotherapist, coach, and teacher. Jayson and I have been facilitating transformational work for over 60 years combined. We've been married for almost 20 years and run our own businesses while raising 2 teenagers. When we're not juggling work and parenthood, we love to get out in nature as far as we can and play.
Our job here is to bring cutting-edge science, practical tools, and a deep view of how to juggle all of these things and have an awesome family, partnership, and business.
We're glad you're here.
Let's go.
Welcome back to Integrated, the podcast for entrepreneurial couples. I'm your host, Ellen.
And I'm Jayson.
And we are your hosts. And this podcast is really geared towards entrepreneurial-minded couples, couples who are maybe working together, maybe not, but one of you or both of you are running your own businesses, you're in partnership, you might be also raising kids, and really living this incredibly complex life where you're sharing really every domain with your partner and wondering how people do this well.
Yeah, because it's very stressful at times to run your own business and deal with the family and little kids, big kids, a partner, trying to get it right for everybody, and you're going to fall flat on your face many times. So we're here to help you get better at dealing with this whole thing. And specifically, we're focusing on the relationship part of this conversation.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're good at.
Yeah. And this lifestyle is also really fun and creative and empowering.
Super dynamic.
And we want you to have more access to that versus the stress and the overwhelm of having so much on your plates with probably very little support.
Yeah, so we're 2 psychotherapists and coaches. We've got 60 years combined experience in the trenches with humans. And we love it. We love what we do. Yeah. And we think this is such a beautiful part of life. And we're parents as well. We've been married almost 18 years.
Yeah, almost 18 years.
Together, almost 22 years. And we got 2 teenage kids, and we're just in the soup, and we love it. So we're going to share what we know to help you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So today, Ellen, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the tension between work and home.
And there is tension, in case you haven't noticed, right? So let's say you're an entrepreneur who feels like if you focus all your energy on work, because you're in a startup phase or whatever, you're working 60, 80 hours a week, your partner and or family is getting a lot less of you. And you're like, man, if I keep going this hard and grinding it out so much, it's coming at the cost of my family or my marriage. Gosh, that sucks. I don't like that. So what if I go over here and I prioritize my family full on or my partner full on? Well, then I don't get the hours in and my business might suffer and the margins might decrease and I might not have the success I want. And so some entrepreneurs find themselves in this either or mentality.
Right. And as we were talking about this today, I was also hearing you say, or hearing us say, like, that tension between work and home. I was reflecting on, wow, that's a lot of women's experience, entrepreneur woman or not. If you work outside the home and you have children, chances are you know exactly what we're talking about in terms of the tension between work and home. How do I be available and engaged and parent the way I want to, and also work and be up to other things outside the home that are also important to me? And, entrepreneurs, whether you're a mother or father or whatever gender you are, and you're running your own business, you have a lot on your plate. And if you're also partnered in with kids, you recognize that it just doesn't feel like there's a lot to go around.
Yeah.
And different things get sacrificed in that process, whether often what we see is the partnership starts to get really put on the back burner. I mean, that happens to partnered couples who aren't in an entrepreneurial situation. They, over time, just kind of fall into these ruts, right? We see it. We see people getting just really kind of, going through the motions of their longer term relationship, right? So entrepreneurs fall into that, putting their partnership on the back burner, or being in a lot of conflict at home with their partner around taking care of all the household life stuff that has to happen, the caring for kids, the home in general, running the business of life, and how to share that can be an ongoing challenge, and even start to feel divisive, or like we're in our own worlds, or we're not, we don't understand or appreciate each other. A lot comes up around not feeling unappreciated.
Yeah, and it gets into scorekeeping. Who's doing more? And look at what I'm doing for you at work because I'm making all this money. And look at what I'm doing with the kids at home.
Yeah.
And the resentments start creeping in, and it can get kind of gnarly for some.
Yeah, and I'd say despite kind of all the progress we've made around women working, there still is a lot of very traditionally set up couples where in, a heterosexual partnership, the man is working, or, in our case, in the entrepreneur world, and the woman or mother is doing very little of that, or a lot, or not at all, working and handling the home and childcare, and that's her domain. And so there still is a lot of that. There's still a lot of that traditional setup.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of conflict around this.
We do. And so we want to try to point you towards how do we deal with this? How do you guys deal with this? And one of the first things is you've got to start doing a better job understanding each other's experience. Because a lot of the couples we work with, it's again, they can slip into this blame defend thing about who's doing more, or you're blank and I'm blank, and it just doesn't get anywhere. And that's a sign of two people who don't understand each other and who don't actually appreciate or know how to validate the other person's experience. The other person's experience is somehow threatening to the other partner.
Right. Well, I mean, part of that, I think, is because they're under a lot of stress.
Completely.
There's a lot of stress. Usually, today we don't have, again, if you have kids in this situation, like you probably don't have extended family helping you. You are having to hire and rehire childcare because childcare falls through, from time to time, or if not often. And there's a lot on each of you, if you're running a business, that's an enormous undertaking. You're probably wearing many hats. There's a lot on the line. There's uncertainty all the time around what's going to happen next quarter and how are we dealing with this unforeseen challenge. There's constant challenges in running your own business. And then there's a lack of support at home, probably. And then it's like, especially if you're parents, we see this the most, where it's like, wow, we had this shared, they're both our kids. Like, we share them equally, but yet we really struggle around how to have us both feel invested, engaged, and part of that. And, run a business at the same time, run the home at the same time, and have everyone get their individual and collective needs met. I mean, it's a big thing. It's a big thing. And again, we want to help you with this conversation. And so stay tuned to the end. We'll have a kind of a challenge or an invitation for you. But couple, there's no script for how to do this. Every couple's so unique. And so you have to decide what works for you. We'll say that a lot in this podcast. Yeah.
You're making this whole thing up, and you get to make up the rules of how it goes down, and the agreements and the terms and principles and values and who gets what and how we're sharing leadership and all the things. And so it's really up to you to solve this. And we're going to throw out some suggestions here. But I want to come back to a conversation I had recently with a couple male entrepreneurs, just so we can ground this with an example.
Right.
And they were both lamenting how hard they work, how stressed they are. And one of them has a new kid at home, and the other one has an older kid, late adolescence. And they're just like, yeah, man, it's so hard. And then their wife, they were kind of reporting how their wife, who in one situation is working, the other situation is not, basically feels like the guy is not present at home and he's not really available to help or to support her, or so not only for her, like, hey, I don't feel like you're emotionally like helping me on my journey and being there for me. You're also not really helping out with the kid situation much. And these guys, both of them, but they're very different guys, but both of them felt like they the thing that came up for them was like, I just want space. I don't actually want to do that. I don't want to do more. I'm already being asked to do so much. I don't want to have to do more. And it's kind of a blowout. And I just want more time to myself. And I felt a little sad when I heard this because I was like, man, I believe and know there's a way to do this where everybody can win and everybody can feel prioritized and held and supported. So that's what Ellen and I are standing for here.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to feel this way.
I got a question for you though, because I hear this a lot too. And what I notice if we're just, we're just, I'm thinking about women and men here right now and how, the women entrepreneurs that I've worked with that are mothers and partners, also are in need of their own space, but don't prioritize it the way you're saying. They're not leading with that the way you're saying these men are that you were talking to.
Yeah.
And everyone of course needs some personal space, some time to do all the other things that we as adults, all the other needs we have and all of that. But I noticed that women typically tend to, it's like work and kids. And the partnership, I will hear their partners feel like, you're not that present for our relationship. It seems like everyone else is getting a lot from you. The kids get a lot from you. Your job gets a lot from you and I don't. So that's more what I hear when it's on the female side. And then she feels like no one's getting enough of me. And then somehow she realizes, God, realizes I'm not even giving myself much, So but I want to come back. I just wanted to name that and then come back to what you were speaking to, which is like, you said something like, I know everyone can get their needs met here or there. Like it could be more balanced or fulfilling.
Yeah.
And so what do you think is going on? Because I'm thinking back to us and how, you didn't start running a business until our kids were like 6 and 8. So we had been running our own businesses up until that time.
Yeah. I got more serious.
On a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
And we were both part-time parents and part-time working.
Yeah.
So we spent like 8 years sharing work and child care because we both really wanted to.
Yeah.
And then we went into you working like way more close to full-time. But you still maintained a really strong connection, maybe because you'd built it over those first 8 years with our kids and still involved in, making dinner and pickups and drop-offs and all that stuff. And just spending time with them and really wanting to. Yeah. So what I'm bringing that up because I'm like, are these men that you're speaking to people who just don't have much of a value on partnership and parenting? Like they just are like, yeah, I want to have that in my life, but I don't really, at the end of the day, I don't care enough to invest more? Or like, what's going on with that guy that he's like, I just want time to myself. Like I haven't seen my kids or partner all day and I kind of just want to be alone.
Yeah.
What is happening? Like, how do you deal with that?
I can take guesses, right, based on what working with so many men like this over so many years. And I'd love to hear, because I know you have some thoughts on this too, to your own question. But, some of it's, male conditioning is we're conditioned out of our nurturing kind of side, or some people might call the feminine. But we're just nurtured, we're conditioned out of like this ability to be in our hearts and care and be kind of soft and like vulnerable and like available emotionally. And so we're just always up against our conditioning as men. And then there's all kinds of other things on top of that. Maybe for some of these men, they're not very good at the conflict repair cycle. And so it consistently doesn't go great when they try to have hard conversations. And if you're more on the avoidant spectrum as a man, if enough conflicts don't go well, you kind of don't want to keep talking about it. You want to retreat and withdraw to your phone or back to work where it's kind of easier, back into your mind, solving problems and fixing things at work with your team or your product or service. And there's that going on. Yeah. A lot of dads feel rejected by the kid. And it brings up their stuff around they want their kids to like them, which is sad. So we can talk about that in future episodes. There's similar thing with the partner. Well, I just feel criticized. Like it's never enough with you and I can't get it right for you. And so again, a lot of men are very sensitive to criticism, including me. And we might feel judged and criticized and we might shut down. And then we're just like, it's just kind of in a loop, right? We get into this loop.
Yeah.
That's like really hard to get out of for some guys. And then they might perform care and perform showing up because it's a whole nother layer. The male entrepreneur is often achievement oriented or an Ennea type 3 if you study the Enneagram. And there's this like the kind of quick download. There is these men, and you can identify with this if you're a man listening to this. You achieve to get love as a kid. You achieve to get your dad's approval or attention. You try to get good at sports or grades or something to feel okay. Because that's when more love came your way and more attention and connection came your way is when you did a lot, right? So
or even just approval. Like maybe that's all you got, but that was something.
Something. Yeah. And that was certainly the family I grew up in, at least on my dad's side. So there's that layer. And so then I might bring... I can't get it right for you kind of turns into this, no matter what I do to perform love and affection and like I care about you isn't working. Well, that guy's taking the wrong approach here. That guy needs to get in his heart and sort of get tender and get vulnerable and be like, wow, honey, I'm really overwhelmed. I don't know how to do this very well. I don't know how to prioritize you and work at the same time and be there for our kid or kids. Or all the projects we want to do together, if you don't have kids. So he just gets blown out, overwhelmed.
And doesn't say that.
And she feels totally dropped. And he's not leading with vulnerability, right? He's defending himself and he's bristly and he's annoyed and he's easily triggered and he goes to his alcohol or his phone or something I got to get away, right?
Yeah.
And so this isn't all men, of course. Some of you guys listening are, you've developed yourself enough to kind of work through that, but those are some things.
It's like a pretty, I'm like, damn, that's a lot of layers.
Yeah.
And, so I feel like there's a lot to examine there. And, this is, I think, steering us towards what we want to help you do as a couple. If you're in this tension is like to start to get curious about this. I think a lot of people end up, if I'm that guy's partner in the situation you were describing, I'm like, oh, you just don't care about us.
Yeah.
You care more about work.
That's right.
Work's more important to you than our relationship. Work's more important to you than our kids. And that just feels bad. And then he's walking into that where she's like, I'm upset because I don't feel cared for, valued, appreciated. You're not making time. You're not, and then, they're off to the races. It triggers all of his stuff. And then she's like, yep, see, you don't really care. So it's,
they're both screwed. So can we hang out with what it's like for her a little more?
In that situation?
Yeah, just in that kind of relational dynamic that so many entrepreneurial couples fall into.
Yeah, if the male is the solo entrepreneur. Yeah, I mean, and I think, because I think even typically with women, they're still prioritizing their kids somehow in all of this, having a lot of tension in themselves about that. But they definitely are at risk to deprioritizing the partnership. And the partners feel that. So those their male partners will complain, and and she feels like she can't get it right or do it. She's like, I'm doing everything. And often those women still are doing a lot of the household. They're still tracking a lot of the details of life and the kids' lives. So women, statistically are still, even if they're working or even the sole provider for the home, they're still taking on more of the childcare and more of the household life stuff.
Yeah, that's still really common.
So that's another episode. But in the situation you're describing, where the male's the entrepreneur, he's coming back, and she feels like he's not present, not attentive, not invested and engaged in their relationship and his relationship with the kids. I mean, she's just getting the message over and over that that she's not a priority, that the family's not a priority, and he's making the family a priority through maybe earning money for the family, which of course we need.
Which is where he gets defensive. Yeah.
He gets defensive here. But she really wants like what started this whole relationship off, which is the connection, the love, care, the feeling, the emotional investment. That's the reason for being together. She's like, where the hell did that go?
Yeah.
And then also, so there's that pain, and she doesn't quite know how to, and then he comes in and she's like, got all this stuff on her plate that she's managing, and she wants help with that. But I think underneath that, she's really longing for the emotional support as well. And it's hard for her to be vulnerable about that, because there's a list of things that she's dealing with or wants to share with him or talk to him about or wants help with, or is like, can I get a little time right now? And all of that. And again, she's not able to lead with the vulnerable conversation around, wow, this lack of emotional connection, and which might not land well for that guy.
And what's the vulnerable? What would she say if she could really drop into?
Yeah, just the sadness and loss that she's feeling about their connection. Like, wow, we've gotten into a place that feels really transactional or really functional. Like we're just trying to function and cover ground and get shit done, but we're not actually really enjoying each other or our relationship. You don't seem to be enjoying parenting. It seems like the kids are just a big pain in your ass a lot of the time. You don't have much patience for them. It's painful to watch the relational erosion that happens in these situations. And then I also want to name that, if the woman, the mother partner is doing the majority of the childcare and dealing with the household and life stuff, she starts to feel like that work is devalued because of the way her partner comes in and kind of doesn't seem to appreciate, doesn't seem interested or curious, seems kind of put out by any request she has around help with kids or help with the house or shit she didn't get done around the house, because that's, as if you've been home with kids before, you know how difficult it is to really do much other than keep the kids moving through their day. So she just starts to feel like her work, what she's spending all of her life force, time and energy on, isn't valued by him. It definitely isn't valued by society, right? I mean, women sacrifice a lot because they value mothering, because they know that what's going on at home is extremely important to everyone, to our communities. A lot I could say about that. But she doesn't feel valued by the one person who could really see the value of what she's doing and the amount she is giving. The one person who could appreciate that,
and that hurts,
is blind to it. That's painful.
That hurts.
It's just, I think it's similar to what he might feel around, gosh, the one person who sees how much I'm working and how much energy I'm putting into work doesn't seem to appreciate it or get it. And so,
and then you got two hurt people now arguing and defending, and hearts closed. And really feeling hurt and kind of dropped. And
they're kind of like, there's no way around this. Like, you have to work that much to do your business, and the house and our lives and the children need this much. They need a person there all the time managing all this. And and then there's, yes, you can get childcare, and yes, you can get help with things, but it's still a lot to manage, and it doesn't necessarily make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Just like having a team as an entrepreneur doesn't necessarily make things easier.
Right.
There's a lot to manage with that. There's a lot of things that can, that have to be dealt with because of that. So they sort of they see this as like, the way couples often come in is like, there's kind of no way around this. Like, this is just how it has to be. This is how it's going to feel, but I'm upset about it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm upset about it, and we're stuck here. Yeah. And so people get resigned. They kind of hit resignation, or this is just how it is.
Yeah.
And we're saying, no, that's not just how it is. You can actually change this. And so the invitation here is for you each person here, like we're doing a common dynamic we see male, female. Of course, this can go 100 different ways. Yeah. And if you identify with any part of this, one of the first steps is to take responsibility for that, and then be vulnerable about that you feel maybe hurt and alone, and that you're trying to solve it by, working harder or
not asking too much, or
trying to tiptoe around, or whatever your strategy is, which is often a childhood thing that you fall into. So it's kind of, we're inviting a conversation. Like, honey, can we talk about this? I don't like how we're doing this. We seem to be stuck here. How do we...
Can I tweak that a little?
Yeah, please.
I think it can also be helpful since maybe today you've heard both sides. If there's two sides here, there might be more and variations on all this. There probably are. I'm sure there are. One thing you can do is you can start that conversation by saying, hey, I'm realizing something about you.
I know what you're going to say, yeah. I'm a little slow. Ellen always reminds me of this part.
Yeah, we'll do this regularly. You could come to your partner and instead of the like, we need to talk conversation, which can trigger
out of someone.
Certain people, you know who you are, potentially. You could start with, hey, I listened to something, or I'm realizing something. You can just be that. I'm realizing, I don't think I'm wondering, I'm starting to wonder if maybe you feel underappreciated here in this relationship for all you're doing.
Yeah.
And I see you working hard. I see you devoting so much energy. I see you stressed. And I know you don't have a lot left over for yourself even.
I mean, I can feel myself start to relax right now, right, as Ellen's talking. So just notice how that might work for you.
I could do this more for you, probably. And I'm just starting to realize that I probably don't, see that enough and recognize that enough. And maybe sometimes you feel like you're on your own over there. And I'm just wondering if that's what it's like for you, because if that's true, I really don't want, that's not the experience I want you to have, or just find out, is that true? Am I on the right track at all?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I could say, and so most people are going to respond pretty well to that, right? She's leading not with a complaint, not with all the things I'm doing wrong.
Right. Not with all the things that I need from him right now, or am upset about.
Yeah. She's actually
which I can get to.
Right.
But
she's not kissing my ass, doing anything disingenuous. She's genuinely like, I've been thinking about you, and I imagine you feel underappreciated.
Yeah. Just
that simple. And then she did a really nice, nuanced version of that. And then I could do the same thing. I could lead, or she could lead. And then of course, I'm going to want to reciprocate when I hear that. And honey, I can imagine you feel very similar, where I'm not getting how much you're doing around here at home and with the kids. And your work is already devalued by society. And I'm kind of playing into that by not just loving you up about how hard you're working and all the little things you do behind the scenes that I don't even notice. I just sort of take it for granted. And I imagine that feels lonely and just bad. And, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because what would be so cool is if we could get that, like, wow, we both are missing out on something here and in our relationship, which is this sense of appreciation and consideration and valuing of each other. Realizing, wow, we both don't feel that connected. We both feel alone, and yet we're here. Like, how's that happening? That's not what I want. It's definitely not what I want my partner to experience. It's not what I want to be experiencing. And now we're starting to maybe start to move into an understanding or a conversation eventually around, is that how we want to be doing this? Is that what we want to be conveying to each other? Would we like to be having another experience here? And if so, what if we start imagining what that would look like for us, for our family, for who we are, for the kind of relationship we want to be in?
And we might have to go, well, we have some resentments that we have to clear, or we have some time blocking we need to do to prioritize date nights again, or to, because in a busy entrepreneurial family, it seems like people get kind of complacent around prioritizing just time together. And then when they have time together, they talk about the list.
Yes.
The administrative task list to just knock out about everything in their life, the house and the kids and the bills and all the travel plans. Whew.
Yeah, it's a lot to cover.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a walk or just sitting in the backyard on a blanket to actually look at each other and be together. It doesn't have to be expensive. It can be free. It can be a simple thing you do. You actually have to, like every entrepreneur has to deal with this, and I think families do too, and couples do too, which is you have to say no to the world and say yes to the relationship by blocking off time and prioritizing. That's a statement alone to my partner that, hey, I'm taking Friday off half day so that we can be together.
And it's best if that comes from like a shared understanding of, we want something different for ourselves and this relationship and this family. You know, if it's coming from, you know, like moving things around in the schedule just to kind of, like you said, be performative, like performing, valuing the partnership or trying to appease a partner or something like that, is really different than actually really tapping into your own desire to have a more connective partnership, to have more resources flowing between you, more of that emotional energy that is going to fuel, actually help work and help at home and help the family vibe. Like if you're connected to that, to wanting that, you're going to look forward to this time you have together as a couple, potentially, or towards getting to give the kids a bath and put them down, because you know, and you start to feel how valuable it is to have quality connection, even if it's not hours and hours. Like quality over quantity for partners and families sometimes is really what we have to focus on, because we do spend a lot of time at work or at school or whatever phase of life you're in. But that quality of presence and care really is going to help those moments you do carve out be impactful and be meaningful.
Yeah, and I just want to validate, if you've struggled here, like Ellen's talking about the possibility, right, that hopefully you're going to live into, where your partnership's a safe harbor and a launching pad. It's this sanctuary for yourselves. You have to get good at the conflict repair stuff that we'll talk about many times here.
Yeah.
So that you're clearing out, because look, we're not talking about a place free of challenges, some magical kingdom where you never argue.
Right. Or you get this all dialed and then you don't ever have to touch it again.
That's magical thinking.
That doesn't happen either.
That's Hollywood has fed you, brainwashed you about what relationship is. It's not that. So you're constantly clearing out, issues between the two of you so that you can enjoy each other.
Yeah.
And I just want to validate that if you have a mountain of stuff you haven't addressed, yes, it's a little harder for you because you keep hitting the snooze button on finding effective solutions together to work through some of your pain. Right. But I guarantee you they're workable, they're work throughable. You can get to a place where, it just feels good in your home, your vibe. Just like, we're connected again. I look forward to seeing you. I want to spend more time with you. That's where you're headed.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of like your physical health. A lot of us understand like, I can't just like have one good workout and think that that's going to bring me everlasting longevity.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we recognize like, oh yeah, with movement and nourishment and rest, like those are ongoing things that we have to tend to, especially as we get older, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. And partnerships, relationships, especially our attachment relationships, different than our friendships, really, really rely on that presence, care, and attentiveness. And again, it's not that we, have to spend an inordinate amount of time together, but when we do have time together, when we do make that time and we feel like a priority, that is going to be really nourishing and sustainable. It's sort of like you can get 30 minutes a day would be a great amount of time to take care of your body or something. It's like you don't have to exercise for 7 hours. It's like partnerships like that, like good quality, present connection, being connected to your purpose and why for even having this relationship and nurturing it is going to take you a long way.
Yeah. And as Ellen's suggesting here, you're earning over just effort through your strong effort as a team, these things. You're earning the beauty and the connection and the vibe being awesome because you put effort in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like your health.
Yeah. Yeah. And it should bring a lot back. And sometimes there's some stuff to work through to get to that place. And you might need support to do that, but that's still no reason not to begin doing it.
Yeah. Speaking of support, we're enrolling another couples group for the summer, which is an amazing place for you to come get nourished as a couple, get support, feel less alone, like, oh, right, there's other people like us, full of entrepreneurial couples like you. And
it's virtual.
Yeah. And you can go to, right now, I think you can go to relationshipschool.com/couples group if you're interested. Thanks for subscribing. Please share this with your entrepreneurial friends. We're getting off the ground here, and it's just fun having you listen. We're getting some great suggestions. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.